What? Bang!
Pro Wrestling Podcast. Just when they think they got the answers, I change the question.
Rep, screw, rep.
Yeah.
Woo!
Who are you to doubt El Dandy? Because this guy's a serious professional.
Can he do it?
Too hot to handle and too cold to hold. And I am Macho King Savage.
Shut your mouth, you thong-wearing fatty. I said WWE stands for... It's me, Austin. I will never retire.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hey, yo, Pro Wrestling Podcast listeners, welcome to the show where we don't sing it, we bring it. Help us out and click subscribe to show your support. Hey, look, are you sick and tired of dropping $60 to $100 for the latest and greatest wrestling video game? Stop immediately. Go to Wrestler Unstoppable, available right now, not just to Facebook users like it's always been, but now available to all users with new account sign up using your email, where you can create a wrestler, sign contracts, get into storylines, headline PLEs, even build your own corporation, all from the ground up, all included in Wrestler Unstoppable, available now, totally free. If you want to become a member of the Pro Wrestling Podcast family, you want your name in the shoutouts like my good buddy down in Texas and my newest Patreon, Emily, then you got to pop over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/Pro Wrestling Podcast. Sign up today. Don't forget, we've got loyalty rewards. If you contribute $15 a month, you get to co-host a show with me. And if you are a $7.50 a month contributor, you can get entered into a drawing to also co-host a show with myself. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Pro Wrestling Podcast. If you've got questions, comments, something you want me to touch on in the future episode, maybe it's the day's news, the rumors, maybe it's a show you want me to review, something like that, give me a call, give me a shout over at the Pro Wrestling Sound Off line, 267-642-1160, and I will get to those questions, comments, and concerns in a future episode as soon as possible. Tonight, jumping into a furthering the story, I should say, from yesterday, all the massive cuts in WWE, adding to that, and I didn't want to put out a fourth update. Like, it seemed like it was getting laborious. Every hour, more names were being added to the list. At this point, 23 wrestlers released by WWE yesterday, and we went over several of them yesterday, but adding to that list is Tyra May Steele, former Olympic medalist, who had been featured on LFG seasons 1 and 2. She joins the likes of Aleister Black, Kairi Sane, the entire Wyatt Six, Zelina Vega. It's just so many people. And if you're somebody who watched LFG seasons 1 and 2, you might be surprised to see people like Chris Island be on there, because he looked like he had so much promise and really was coming along well. He is now gone. So, and there were several others. Serena Linton was gone. She was another one LFG competitor. So WWE really cleaning house. Now, look, I get it. I saw somebody on social media taking an opportunity to try to explain a different side to all this. Look, I don't want anybody to lose a job. I really don't. I would love for these people to be able to continue making their dreams come true for the rest of their lives. And I suspect many of them still will, perhaps in other locations. However, I know it's hard for fans sometimes to do this, but it is a business decision. When NXT is pumping out the talent that it is and promoting this many stars to the main roster, that means some main roster people need to go to make room for them. And if nothing else, it's a significantly reduced payroll when you do that. I would imagine Aleister Black makes far more money than somebody like a Ricky Saints or somebody like a Javon Evans. Likewise, when somebody moves on from NXT, people from Evolve have to move up, and some LFG people have done very well. Shiloh Hill's done very, very well for himself, going up to NXT, and people like that. So you see those opportunities are there, and they do really need to cultivate those. But at the same time, again, then at the NXT level, there's people that need to go who have been there for an extended period of time, like Andre Chase, who was released yesterday as well. Somebody who's been there for a very long time, doesn't seem to be, at least from what I'm assuming from their perspective, not progressing at the rate that they wanted him to. Is this somebody who going down the road you're going to see in a premium situation, even at a mid-card status? I get it, we always have to have like bottom level talent that are there to put people over, but you do have to have a strong mid-card. I said yesterday I was surprised at some of them. I'm kind of surprised at Tyra May Steele, because you could have really hyped up her gold medal winning performance at the Olympics. I actually am kind of hoping that this opens a doorway for her to join Real American Freestyle with Eric Bischoff's corporation and maybe bring some name brand recognition to them, because they're doing phenomenal business over there, especially considering how young they are and how revolutionary this is. But other talents, people like Aleister Black, Zelina Vega, I suspect they'll land on their feet somewhere. I suspect the Motor City Machine Guns will probably go back to TNA Wrestling, where they spent the majority of their career, that or the Indies, or both, probably a little bit of both. There's certain people I think are going to be just fine. Kairi Sane, as I've said before, said yesterday, that's the most shocking one to me, because we never got the payoff from the Kairi Sane, Asuka, Io Sky triangle situation there. I really wish they would have at least finished that storyline, because it really shows a disconnect between the penny pinchers and the story writers. You know, you leave the story writers kind of hamstrung when you take away something they've built around for so long, and obviously would have had an end game in sight, and now they don't get to bring that to fruition. Got to move on a little bit, though, because I don't want to dwell on this forever, but another thing that came out yesterday I thought was very exciting if you were a fan originally. Lucha Underground has hinted at returning to business with a social media teaser on their X account, and it just showed a close-up of a lucha mask. It pans in, and then in Spanish it says soon. Now, we have been seeing that they have been trying to bring more content to social media distribution platforms. They ran for 4 seasons, 2014 to 2017 on El Rey. They did really, really well in that time frame. People really, it's a niche product, but it's a very interesting one. They would borrow talent from AAA. Now WWE owns AAA. And at first, some people thought, well, maybe this is a WWE revived project, but if you looked at the trademarking for Lucha Underground, it was actually filed for Lucha Underground LLC in January 2025, went live earlier this year, and the people that are associated with it are all El Rey Network previous employees. So clearly these people had to have a vested interest in the product, and perhaps this is nothing to do with WWE. I don't know who they would put on their roster. And in terms of wrestling in Mexico, it's a very interesting time when you have the new promotion that originally we thought was going to be an Alberto El Patron promotion. You've got Crash, you've got AAA, you've got CMLL, and various other smaller companies. Adding another televised product like this would clearly need to be. It seems like an odd time, but I'm certainly not against it. If you ever watched Lucha Underground, if they could recapture any of that special feel that they had for those shows, if you were into it, you were super into it. If you weren't into it at all, it wasn't your thing, that's okay. Turn the channel. But I, for one, would love to see them bring that back. I think it would be very, very exciting. One last thing before we get to SmackDown. Seth Rollins, so happy to see this. He made an appearance for an old, I shouldn't say an old, a promotion that he used to wrestle for during his independent days. And there's video clips of this all over the internet from AAW Wrestling. They had the entryway lit up with their logo playing in the background, and then all of a sudden the Burn It Down music played. The Visionary music played, and Seth Rollins came out, and he gave just an absolutely beautiful speech. And it was interesting because in the speech he mentioned how he didn't plan out what he wanted to say. He kind of wanted to bring it off the cuff, and it felt so organic. It felt so real. And what I think showed through the most in what he was talking about was his absolute passion for wrestling, professional wrestling, and his gratitude for not only the promoter he was there with, who he hugged several times, and it was very emotional. He was tearing up from time to time, but also for the fans in those small places. And he really emphasized the need to support indie wrestling. And I loved it. I thought, here's a guy who, let's be honest, is at the top of the food chain when it comes to modern day professional wrestling, and he's there helping. This was the last show in the particular location they were doing it at, and he was there for that. He also mentioned that several of the talents at his Black and Brave Academy were going to be performing that night, which was very cool to see that they're getting some opportunities and getting some screen time. And then, honestly, for an indie promotion, I thought the camera work was pretty solid. I really did. Good stuff. So great to see somebody like Seth giving back. I think that was really wonderful. From this point, we got to get into the SmackDown show. There was a lot going on in this show. First off, it started the show with Jacob Fatu coming to the ring. The Usos come out. The MFTs come out. This very confusing storyline, Nick. Jacob Fatu wanting to do it all on his own. I get that, the vibe, but this really, honestly, it shocked me. It looked like they were setting up a 6-man tag between the MFTs and he and the Usos, and that did not happen. He does not want the Usos' help. He still wants to face Roman. The MFTs coming out basically asking him to join their family. Solo Sikoa asking if he would join their family. And when it kept going round and round, eventually it leads to Jacob Fatu challenging Solo Sikoa to a match. Super kicking Tama Tonga and then challenging him for a match, which we were going to see later in the evening. Now, I love all that happened in this interview. I think Jacob Fatu is increasing his mic skills for most of his promos. The only thing I would consider tweaking a little bit where WWE creative is maybe pump the brakes on how frequently we hear, keeping it 100. Like, I get it, you got to say that a bit because it's kind of one of his things, but we don't need to hear it every 3 or 4 times in an interview. It becomes somewhat redundant, and I don't want anybody to put, to stifle the fire that is growing, that is Jacob Fatu, because he is on a rocket ship that could go anywhere they wanted to, and he is incredibly over with the fans, and I love his all gas, like all that. I don't want it to turn into somewhat of a stagnant thing if he keeps using the same phrases over and over and over again. I think he's too good for that. So, moving on from there, Julia defending the Women's United States Championship against Tiffany Stratton. And look, I hate to say this, but Julia is worldly talented, far beyond what they've allowed her to display in WWE. And what bothers me is from the minute she won the United States Championship, she's never been booked like a strong champion. It's almost like Roxanne Perez. The two of them were called up at the same time, and they looked like they were going to dominate the main roster, both brands. And then since they separated and Roxanne went to Raw and Julia goes to SmackDown, Roxanne's been involved with Judgment Day, which I guess that's cool, but no real substance. I mean, a tag team championship reign that she kind of took over when Liv got hurt. I don't know how much merit you put into that. And Julia getting the Women's United States Championship sounds great, but they do nothing with it. Kiana James is over more than Julia is, and that's a travesty considering how incredibly talented Julia is. It's obvious they're heading for a split up between the two of them. Maybe this championship match was the start of that. As you can probably guess from the way I'm phrasing that, Tiffany Stratton wins the Women's United States Championship. Congratulations to Tiffany Stratton. But where does Julia go from here? Because she really does belong at the top of the card. She's somebody you can realistically book in a feud with people like Rhea Ripley, with people like Becky Lynch, with people like Bianca Belair whenever she comes back and whatnot after having the baby. We need to see people like her being elevated, and with the incredible crop of female talent coming from NXT, they can't wait on this. They need to start building that now. I think Kiana James could be on that level too at some point, but right now, I'm really dropping the ball with Julia. She needs to be moved up the card, not down. Maybe that's what they're doing with this. Take this belt off or move her up, but she may be one of the people they feed to Rhea Ripley leading, before we get to a SummerSlam program for Rhea Ripley. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. Tiffany Stratton almost feels like a demotion of sorts. She's a world championship contender, and then she leaves for a few months, comes back, and gets into the mid-championship picture, which I don't know why they would do that. It's almost like Becky Lynch has been in the IC picture for way too long. But we'll have to wait and see how things play out over time. I think they just have to do more with Julia. It's almost an indictment on WWE creative, which a lot of things are lately. So we'll have to wait and see. We do see that The Miz and Danhausen are going to be going at it. There's a vignette where they're at The Miz's house, which was, look, if it wasn't professional wrestling, if it was just a nighttime comedy thing, would have been absolutely hilarious. The fact that we're watching it on a pro wrestling program, I don't need it. It may make that one of those online exclusive things. I really don't need that in the middle of our weekly television show, because I'm looking for competition even if it is predetermined. I'm not looking for goofy side vignettes that are at somebody's house somewhere, unless it's going to really further a storyline, which this did not. But After that, we get Brie, Bella, and Paige appearing as the new tag team champions. Right before they came out, Tiffany Stratton was talking at ringside about her championship win. I thought it was really strange. They were in the middle of talking to Tiffany Stratton, and they hit Brie Bella's music, which you would think would eventually lead to something between the two of them. Maybe that is the case. I don't know. Maybe we'll have to wait and see. With Brie and Paige coming out, they are interrupted when they're celebrating their championship win by Charlotte and Alexa Bliss, which I think is a phenomenal pairing for their first match. And then we're going to see that match. Immediately, they send a referee down. And honestly, this was going so well right up until Fatal Influence hit the ring. JC Jane and the rest of Fatal Influence laying out all 4 competitors, leaving them all, just splattered everywhere. Obviously, they have been called up to the main roster. Kind of surprised that all of Fatal Influence has been called up, but whatever. I'm cool with it if they have a way to book them all. Lainey Reed, Fallon Henley, both hitting their finisher on, I believe it was Alexa Bliss. This was just solid work, top to bottom, and a great debut for the faction. We did have a conversation about Royce Keys winning the Battle Royal and all that stuff. And then we lead into the Cody Rhodes conversation. He's out there with his black eye. And here's the thing. He's not medically cleared. He has some conversation about Randy Orton and how the punt wasn't enough to get the job done. And Orton's not in the building. If Orton wasn't there, I wouldn't even have had him speak. I don't understand what the purpose of that is. What, Orton loses at Mania, but he's clearly not hurt at Mania because he hits him with the belt after the fact, and then he doesn't even show up to SmackDown. What kind of viper and angry heel character wouldn't show up and then get the job done later? After calling out Orton, he also talks about Sami Zayn, which I think this was done on purpose to set up a match with Cody and Sami Zayn, which might be brilliant booking, because right now the fans are heavily turning on Zayn, but they also were turning on Cody. If you put the two of them together, the fans have to cheer for somebody. Now, I wonder, in the back of my mind, if they wouldn't turn again and cheer for Sami because he's never had the championship. Perhaps. That is a win I would like to hold off until a Mania moment for, but I suppose we could do it before that. I just don't see Cody losing the championship this soon. There's still some question as to whether he'll be ready for Backlash or not, but if he is, I think Sami Zayn would be a very logical opponent for him. After that, we get to Damian Priest and R-Truth defending the Tag Team Championship against JC Mateo and Tama Tonga, and I don't even know why we talk about budget cuts, and again, I don't want anybody to lose their job. But has Tonga Loa done anything of substance since joining WWE other than some botches that have gone viral? If you're going to cut somebody, you cut somebody who doesn't have a lot of use. Somebody like Zelina Vega and Aleister Black had to have had more use on SmackDown than Tonga Loa, but he is not in this match. Now, JC Mateo, another guy who's being severely underused. I would even argue Tama Tonga is being underused. That guy can go as a single star if you let him. And where has Shinsuke Nakamura been? He was building up this situation with the MFTs for a while, specifically Tonga Loa. And when you're doing budget cuts, you would think if you were going to cut somebody, it would be Shinsuke Nakamura, but he's still employed. And again, that's no disrespect to Shinsuke or to Tonga Loa. It's just thinking about the numbers and the contributions people make to the show versus what you would theorize their salaries must be. This match goes back and forth. Pretty solid match. Priest and Truth end up retaining the championship. And then after that, we get into Trick Williams. Little Yachty appearing with the gingerbread mascot. And if you're a pro wrestling fan for any length of time, you could have seen this coming a mile away. You knew exactly who the gingerbread man was going to be. The gingerbread man takes out Lil Yachty. He takes out Trick Williams and reveals himself to be Sami Zayn, who then hits a haluva kick in the gingerbread outfit to end the segment. And obviously this is him fully committing to that full-blown heel turn, which I guess maybe that helps to freshen up his character a bit. We've all theorized that it could be the case. But we'll have to wait and see how the fans react to that. We did see a segment in the back again with Royce Keys talking to Solo Sikoa. Sikoa offering to bring him into the family. Obviously, in my opinion, this is to set up Solo and Royce Keys for the next feud, because obviously the Jacob Fatu thing is a one-off because he's going to be going to Raw to face Roman Reigns. I don't know if he'll come back after the fact, but it's certainly going to be leaving for Raw for Roman Reigns for now. And then Solo's got to have something solid to do. Royce Keys is a great guy that he could put over and really make a star in the process. From there, we get to Danhausen versus The Miz. Total comedy match. The cursed sparks and all that flying, and the roll up for the win for Danhausen, who's now undefeated. And And then him running away from the Miz, trying to slide under the ring and whatnot. It's so ludicrous that it's actually entertaining. And if anybody noticed, at WrestleMania, the top 3 merchandise sellers, number 1 was CM Punk. Number 2, I believe, was Cody Rhodes, and number 3 was Danhausen. So he is clearly getting over with the fans in some way, shape, or form. So, great for him. Love to see him actually getting to have a match. He did say he wants to wrestle more in WWE than he did in AEW. So it sounds like WWE is starting to take that to heart and start getting him into the ring. We have Rhea Ripley come out as the women's champion, celebrating to a degree. And, of course, then you hit Fatal Influences music again. And now JC Jane, Fallon Henley, Lainey Reed come out again. And now they're attacking Rhea Ripley. And this is, obviously, they're setting something up with Rhea, Alexa, and Charlotte to go against these 3. But now we know that... that this is that we're going to get this, what you would consider to be a PLE match, Rhea Ripley versus JC Jane, is coming out that night. You're going to get that immediately on SmackDown. And it's a great match. It really was a very good match. Now, there's a disqualification finish when it looked like Ripley was going to win, but they lay Rhea Ripley out. And then, you're getting prepared for the solo Jacob Fatu match. And right before the match, Charlotte and Alexa are back in the medical tent or medical area. And here comes Rhea Ripley. And Flair just wasn't impressed. And she, she's talking about she's going to do what Ripley failed to do. And then apparently she's taking on JC Jane next week. We get a video package. We find out a couple things this week. We find out that Ricky Saints is being called up to the main roster to SmackDown, as is Blake Monroe. So WWE really gutting NXT. Now, thankfully, NXT's pretty deep with talent, but not a lot of veteran talent. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Then we get to our main event. Solo Sikoa versus Jacob Fatu. Solid match back and forth. A lot of interference from the outside. The MFTs getting involved. The Usos coming out. Jacob not wanting their help. And in the end, at the end of the match, Mighty Moonsault, Jacob Fatu defeats Solo Sikoa. But more importantly, all the MFTs attack him. The Usos look like they're going to save him. But they stand on the apron and watch while Jacob Fatu takes out the entire faction of the MFTs. This was deep stuff. And then he responds by saying he'll see Roman Reigns on Monday. It was a great way to make Jacob look really, really strong. And I thought WWE accomplished exactly what they were trying to do with that. So, a solid episode. There was stuff in there that could have been better, could have been worse. I don't think it wasn't the greatest episode ever. Certainly could have had, more for Cody to do, more from some of the other tertiary components on the card. I mean, you wonder why people are getting cut. It's because we're not seeing enough talent on the show. If you're not going to put on more matches on the card, and let's be honest, SmackDown usually gets more matches than Raw. If you're not going to put more matches on, then have more multi-person matches so that we get to see more talents out there, and TKO is getting more bang for their buck. As are the fans. The fans probably want to see more people as well. So I don't think they'll listen to a word I'm saying, but at least it's out there. That's all the time we have for this episode. Check back with us next episode. We run down the latest wrestling news and rumors. Special thanks, as always, goes to Suno for creating the music and sound effects we use on our show. Today's show is sponsored in part by Beazle Games. Bring a new friend to family game night. It's easy with sketchy people. Showcase your artistic side in this game from Beazle Games by going to thegamecrafter.com and picking up your copy today. If you're looking for your next career move, you're considering college, university life, maybe you just need some formal training for your next career decision, go to our website at frolifeplanning.com for all your higher education needs, as Fro Life Educational Planning is for today, for tomorrow, and for life with Fro Life. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Dr. Fro, and I want to thank you for taking some time with us today. Till next time, take care, everybody. Have a great night.